Welcome back to Drafting with Mark, and this is going to be part 2 of this series of videos. So in the first one, you saw me went ahead and did all of the drafting for this. In this video, you're going to actually see me create a simple B-size title block, put in all the views, dimension it, and actually do some text and things of that nature. So if you're kind of a little fuzzy about how things work in Paperspace, this is going to be a really good video for you to follow along. Remember that if you get anything out of this video, please go ahead and do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, or leave me a comment and tell me what I did or didn't do, or something that you may not understand in this video. All right, so I'm not going to talk too much. Let's go ahead and get started. This one, we're going to use a custom title block. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch over to the Model tab. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and create an 11 by 17 title block for this one, since it won't fit on our traditional. So let's go and use a rectangle. 0, 0, 17, 11. Now I want you to go ahead and offset that to the inside, 0.5. I want you to go get your layers from your actual other title block, and remember the way we do that is we have to go to the design center. So if you want to find the toolbar for it, you can go to Insert, Design Center, and you usually have to give it a little bit since it's the first time it opened. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to navigate to wherever I have my title block stored at. So mine is stored underneath here. I'm going to choose my layers. I'm going to highlight all of these layers, and remember, you right click and you hit the add layers button, and you can see that that will now add them to your title block that you just created. I'll go ahead and select the outside, back to the home tab, and I'm going to put that on the border layer. The inside, put on the title block layer. And then my viewport, I'm just going to put on the viewport layer. Alright, so now I can size this up. I'm just going to move this to the midpoint. And I'm going to put this one on the end point. Next thing I'm going to do is just size up my title block to fit this. So I'm going to choose the Layout tab, Page Setup Manager, Modify, DWG to PDF, ANSI, full bleed, 17 by 11, so I'm ANSI, full bleed B, 17 by 11, extents, center, monochrome, okay, and close. Now I'm going to double click in this viewport, double click one more just to center it. And now I'm just going to adjust my scale to this 1/6 is equal to a foot. So 6 inches is equal to a foot, I'm sorry, and the scale of that one is 2 if you're curious about looking for it. I'm just going to pan this over just a little bit so I give myself some room for my dimensions that's going to be running along this side. I'll go ahead and lock this viewport. Double click on the outside just to make sure. I'll go ahead and create another viewport. And I'm just going to make it here. If you want, you can go ahead and match the properties or do any of that stuff. So I'm just going to come back to the home. Go ahead and select this viewport. Choose viewport. Now I'm going to go ahead and place it on that midpoint. And depending on how this looks, I'll see if I actually need to move it down or anything of that nature. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to double click and I'm going to zoom in to this area. This is the area I want to take a look at. I give you the scale on the drawing of what we need to make this one. So this is a 1:1. And you can see what I need to do to adjust this one. So I can just pan it down a little bit. All the way until I get the top of that peak. Double click on the outside, and I'm just going to move this down a little bit to where I can get the neck of my drawing at. So I have it here. And that looks centered enough to where I can do everything that I need. I have my point at the top where I can put my dimensions. So from this point, I can go ahead and start creating my dimensioning styles and things of that nature. I'm going to double click back over to this picture, and I'm just going to pan it up just a little bit. Remember, I have the lock turned on. So I'm going to pan this up just a little bit. Do not use the scroll button to mess up your view. I'll go ahead and lock it, and I'll come to this one and lock it as well. Okay, so everything is ready and set up for me to go ahead and set up my dimensioning styles. Click on annotation, go to my dimensioning style, modify. And I'm going to kind of work backwards on this one since I know that I'm starting in my fractional units. So I'm going to choose fractional. My precision will be 1/16. And now how do you want these dimensions to be? Diagonal next to them, not stacked, or choose the horizontal. I'm going to choose horizontal. Underneath this next tab, I'm going to use fit. So that one is okay. My text, I will make it a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to make it 0.125. Underneath my arrows, I'm going to change to my architectural ticks on both of these. Turn my center marks off. And underneath my lines, I'm going to leave everything alone there. Close, close, choose the dimensioning properties, dimensioning layer. And now I can go ahead and start doing some dimensioning. So I'll go from here, from that end point to this center. And I forgot to go ahead and adjust my dimensions one more time. So you can see that that dimension is going straight up and down. I actually wanted to rotate with that, so let me go back to my dimensioning styles. That was one thing I didn't look at when I did that. Modify. And now I want to go and take a look at underneath this underneath the text tab. I want to go ahead and align my dimensions, and now I want them above it. And that's the only two options that I'm going to need to select to make my dimensions go ahead and change. And you should see that one should adjust accordingly. Alright, so I need to move this one down a little bit. Alright, so now I'll go ahead and finish and continue in dimensioning here. So I'll go from here, once again this center, and I'm going to go all the way up to this top end point. Alright, one of the next things I'm going to do is I'll start my dimensioning. Go from this end point to that peak. And that's where I'm going to come over. Now I'm going to choose the continue option. I want to continue from here. So I'm going to click here. And then here. And then here. I'm going to kind of zoom in down to this option. Back to my dimensioning. I'll go here to here. Continue. From on this baseline, I want to go to here. Next, I want to go to this middle of here, so I have to go to the center. I'm going to come up to this end point. To that top. One last dimension I need to add. It's going to be from this top end point to that end point. And if you recall that these pink lines are nothing more than viewports, and they will go away here shortly. So I just did that. And I'll go ahead and turn those off, just so they're not in the way. Next thing I need to do now is start dimensioning this one. So I'm going to start with the dimension. And you'll notice that this one has a center line that's running through this direction. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come back to the model space. And that center line is running through this line here. So if you want, and I believe there should be an endpoint here to that endpoint, I'm going to go ahead and add that to this center layer. And you can extend these on both sides if you like. I like to use the lengthen command. So I can choose lengthen, delta, and that way I keep everything all uniform. And these are really small dimensions, so I can put in 0.25. That actually may be too big. Okay, 0.25 is okay. So now when I jump back to the layout tab, you'll see that I have them here. Remember, I also have them here, so I want you to double click in this viewport, go find where it says center, and just turn that one off in that viewport. And now I'll come back to this one. Alright, so make sure you're out of the viewports. Go ahead and now start doing your dimension. So I want to go from that endpoint to here. I'm going to choose the continue option. I'm going to go to continue from this line to this endpoint and up to that endpoint. Do a dimension on the other side. So I want to go from that endpoint all the way down to this center. You can give a dimension. To here. And if you want, you can just go ahead and continue over to this center. Only problem I have with sometimes setting up certain dimensioning styles is that you'll see that this radius now has got this weird kind of bend to it. So what I'll typically do next is I'll come back to my dimensioning style. I'll create a new one based off of this one, and I'm just going to name it as one with leaders. Once I named it, I'll come to my arrows and go ahead and make them closed field again. And also underneath the underneath the text, go ahead and make that centered and make them horizontal. Then that way they'll stay and look like the original. So now I want to make sure I'm on that one, which is I'm on the leader one. So now when I go ahead and I create my dimensions, they're back to acting correctly. So I do have a dimension here. And sometimes you got to move your cursor around when you're using that special type of dimensioning. And I can make that fit right in the middle of there. And then we have one more that's on the outside of here. Alright, I have to add a couple more dimensions, so I'll jump back over to my standard. Come back to dimensioning. And I know I have a dimension from here to here. And I have another one from here to here. Switch back to my leader one. I'll go ahead and add these last dimensions to it. So I have one here. Just kind of waiting on it to switch over. Going here, and finally that one. Alright, so all my dimensioning is done on this page of everything that I'm going to need. I can jump over to the next page and finish that. So I'm just going to switch and open up one in layout 2. I can go ahead and create that rectangle again. So rectangle 0, 0, 17, 11. Just offset 0.5. What I'm going to do is just go ahead and match these the way they need to be. So that goes to my border. This goes to the title block. And the inside one goes to your viewport. Gotta make sure I hit escape after those because it keeps selecting them. Alright, so it's telling me that I put it on something that's turned off. Go ahead and turn your viewport back on. And now to match your paper up with this, it gets a little bit more simpler. Because now I can just go to Page Setup Manager and double click on Layout 1, close, and this one now is adjusted to the size. Alright, so if we look on page 2, we'll see that one also has a scale of 1 to 1. So right now I'm just going to make my viewport as big as I can. I'll go ahead and match that scale. Kind of pan things around just a little bit to where I can get what I need in my screen. And then what I'm going to do now is double click on the outside, and I'm just going to hide things with my viewport. So I know that this has to come to that endpoint. And if you want to move it down just a tad bit, you can do that. Just so you can make sure that you get all the point on the inside of that one. On this side, it really doesn't matter. And I can move this going all the way up. Now I'll use the move command and just move these down. Now I can go back to that and turn my viewports back off. Okay, as you can see, this problem is kind of getting a little bit long with all our dimensioning and things that we're going to need on it. So I'll go back to the dimensioning. And first, let me go ahead and put myself right back on the dimensioning style. So now I'm ready to start dimensioning again. I'll come from here to here. And once again, I'm on the wrong dimension style. Okay, I'll go ahead and try this again. Choose my continued. And you can see I have some other lines in here, some center lines and things of that nature. So if you want to go ahead and put those in, remember the command is center, layer. I'm going to go ahead and put that on the correct layer, which is center. And now I can go ahead and put my center marks . And this is where it kind of gets a little bit tough at, because now I need to go ahead and create a line. It's going from here to here. And if you want to use match properties, you can use that as well. Well, I can go ahead and create a couple of lines that go across here. I'll go ahead and match those as well. Alright, let's get back to dimensioning. And you can see that this kind of just, I have to come back and move that dimension there. But it's just no matter than just putting dimensions on your drawings and keep on going just how the pictures have them laid out. I think I have all of my dimensions captured. Now let's go ahead and do the radial dimensions. Once again, I just keep on going and then I'll come back and put my text on it later. And sometimes if it's being a little stubborn to you, I can easily come and just tell it now, just only do radial dimensions. And in this case, that might actually speed things up because I have quite a few. I'll just have to hit the enter button to go back, as opposed to waiting all day for that to click over. Okay, and I think I got almost all of them except for my, okay, I got a couple of them here. And now I have a diameter dimension. It's located somewhere along here. I also have that dimension, which has happened to be on the wrong layer. I mean on the wrong style. Okay, that's all my dimensions. Now I can come back and I can add to these. So I can double click them. Use the end button, space 8 places. On the end of this one, typical. End of this one, that's typical. End of this one is typical as well. Alright, so now I need to just go ahead and add the dimensions, the actual verbiage here along the top. So I'm just going to use some single line text. I'll click here and it's asking me how big do you want the text to be, and in this case let's make it 3/16, enter, no rotation angle. Now I'm ready to type in. I'll go back to that command. I'm gonna click here, make the height 0.05 .125. And then I'll type in scale 1 inch. Sorry, 1 foot, 1 inch is equal to 1 foot, 0 inches. And now it's asking me for, just a basic block number. One of your options that you have in your multi-leaders is that. What I'm going to do is just simply draw a circle. And I'm going to make the diameter 0.25. And I can put a number on the inside of that with the single line. Change the justification to middle center. Select your middle center. Height is 0.1875 or 3/16. Enter number 3. Enter escape. So that number, now my balloon looks a little bit smaller than what it should be. I'm just going to move it up in the property. So the diameter is that. Let's go ahead and make the diameter 0.5. Just going to now create a line from this midpoint, from this quadrant going across. Just kind of move this up a little bit. And I'll move this one up a little bit. Move them both back. Then I'll go ahead and put them on the correct layer. And this sheet is done. So I'm just going to use a copy, just a Control C. I'll zoom the extents on this sheet since we're done with it. Take a look back at sheet 1. Control P. Now I'll go ahead and place this one. And this is going to be my front elevation. I'm just going to change these. That's going to be my number 1. Front. Front elevation. Make that number 6. Should have actually been a colon behind this. That'll be something I'll have to go back on the other sheet and adjust. Go ahead and copy this. Over to here. This is just called capital detail. This is going to be back to 1 foot equals 1 foot dash 0 inches equals that. Go ahead and change the number in the front to 2. And the last thing I need to do is go ahead and type in this text, and I'm going to use multi-line text for that. And I'll just show you how to do it, and then the next time you'll see it, it'll already be done for you. So I'm just going to go to my multi-line, go ahead and put a window here. And now my text height is already saying that is correct. So the next thing I need to do is just start typing. Okay, so now I'm done with all my typing. I'll just go ahead and close this. And now I can go ahead and put this on the correct layer. And if I want to stretch this out a little bit, I can use this arrow And now you can see that these words will start shrinking kind of to the way that I need them to be on the drawing. Let me go ahead and move this up and see if I can make myself a little bit more space to fit all of this in. So I'm just going to kind of move this up to this location. And now I'm going to move this text up to that location. So now I have everything completed. I'll go back to sheet 2, just because I know I forgot to put the colon in between those, so I just double clicked on it. Come between and put that colon in between. Zoom the extents and come back to layout 1. Now I have everything on this drawing completed, and hopefully you were able to complete this one as well.